All right, our next company is from Chicago, Illinois. To go as Vivacelle, please welcome to the stage Cuthbert Simpkins. Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay. It is with great pleasure that I tell you about our fluid, which is designed to raise the blood pressure in patients who have lost a large amount of blood. In scenarios like these, especially the military, where it is necessary to deliver a lot of blood, and our product can have that treatment start on site on the battlefield. However, blood itself and other fluids that are used in these situations have many severe complications. Therefore, we developed VBI-1. This is one of the experiments that we did in the development. In this experiment, we removed blood from rats, put them in a state of shock for 1 hour, and then we gave them various fluids to increase their blood pressure. This curve shows the effect of giving blood. As you expect, it comes up. Our product is a phospholipid nanoparticle, and when we've had a diameter of 300 nanometers, we gave the fluid, it only went up transiently. Next, we reduced the size to 94 nanometers, and the pressure came up and stayed up much like that of blood. However, VBI-1 is safer than blood. It costs less, it's more stable, it doesn't transmit disease, and it's metabolizable and is very readily handled by the body. This is a new and disruptive paradigm. It is not a blood substitute, it's designed specifically for shock. We have 9 US patents and 28 patents in international jurisdictions. The addressable market is over 13 billion, and we have a pipeline of other products. The short regulatory pathway is possibly shorter. We're on track to finish a phase 2A study by the third quarter of 2019, after which we will do a transaction for shareholders. We're impressed by the manufacturing capacity of Buffalo, and I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to present our product to you and to our audience.
Thank you. Okay. So you got a team of people you want to bring out? Yes. Let's call them out now.
This is our team. This is our CEO, Dr. Stephen Keith. There's a vast experience in the startup world and leadership positions in the startup world. Okay, this is Dr. Krishna Tuluri, our Chief Medical Officer. She has great experience in the regulatory sphere. And this is Dr. Harvin DeShield. He's a PhD in biochemistry, and in addition, he received his JD and his PhD here in Buffalo.
Okay.
So
Virginia.
Yes, I'll start it off. So thank you so much for your presentation. And I've seen it a couple times now, and I've read through the materials, and I'm still sort of not getting, like, how does this work? What's the, what do you know about the mechanism of action of this?
We did with mass spectrophotometric experiments. We found out that that our product is a reversibly absorbs nitric oxide. As you know, nitric oxide is critical for keeping blood vessels open. And when you have too much nitric oxide, which is what happens in shock, the blood vessels are too open and the blood pressure drops and the patient dies. There is no therapy for that whatsoever. Blood doesn't manage that, nothing manages that. So when this was first discovered, that nitric oxide was important, scientists developed inhibitors of nitric oxide synthase. But then you stopped all the nitric oxide, everything clamped down, and there was no blood flow. So the conundrum here was, how do you reduce the bioavailability of nitric oxide without stopping its production? And that's what we've achieved. It's like a sponge, like a buffer. It takes up the nitric oxide, but we've also demonstrated that it readily releases it.
No, I think that's great. That's a good explanation, and that leads to my second question, if I may, about the regulatory path. So you're going a pharma path, and I thought it was really interesting because I've talked to a number of companies lately that have sort of surprised me about there's the drug regulatory path and there's the device regulatory path. And we think of the drug path as being a little bit harder. And so as I was thinking about this and the mechanism of action, it got me thinking, have you really considered whether this could go a device regulatory path, which is a lower barrier?
It is, but at the same time,
If it's working like a sponge, it's more like a,
it
you know,
would be
like a
device,
device.
right? But that wouldn't get categorized like that regulatory-wise. So what we actually consulted with experts, and we went ahead and submitted the IND with all the ingredients, with all the information, and with the trial design that we are proposing, which is a phase 2A, which is unusual, but all the ingredients are well known to man, and it was used in several things before, and it's a combination of the ingredients. So with that, with the protocol we submitted to the FDA, they didn't have any objection when it comes to the trial design, which is a very small trial, but it would give us proof of concept. And in addition to that, what they had was, they had a couple of questions and clarifications required for the manufacturing aspect of it. So that as long as we take care of it, we are a go.
Yeah, you're too far down the path now, but I have seen companies where they've been able to work with the FDA on a
Yeah.
simpler path.
Jill?
You mentioned that this would be good for the military and things like that. What are the storage conditions you have to have it under? What sort of transportability you have to have? Is it something that's limited as far as how much you could infuse into somebody? Things like that.
It has a shelf life of at least 12 months.
Wow.
Plus more, and that's at room temperature. And as far as its stability and its transportability, it's fully transportable. We can add various things to it, and there's no real limit you can give. We've replaced about 60% of the blood volume with this. So, and you're pretty much, what's lethal is about 30% of your blood volume, so it probably sees what's necessary. With further experimentation, we may be able to replace 100% of the blood volume. But that's a different situation.
Yeah.
Eric, please.
I'm not in a position to comment. Well, yeah, if you want to make a comment.
One last thing, and in terms of storage, we are talking about at room temperature. It will not require refrigeration.
Right.
We got that point.
Yeah,
Eric.
so that part, it's not my specialty, but you mentioned something about a corporate entity that would do a spin-off of this company. So where would if you got funded, where would the money go and how would that work out?
If, in fact, we did the spin-out, what we would do is to use proceeds from that, number one, to possibly provide a financial return to existing investors, but mostly to reinvest into the pipeline products, which are based upon the VBI-1 platform.
Are you saying that the money that you raised would go directly to your investors?
Excuse me, in terms of the transaction. You had asked in terms of if we did a transaction after phase 2A, one of the things we would consider that the board of directors, whether in fact we wanted to have, for instance, a dividend going back to investors. But that is not a guarantee. We really have to look at the landscape at that time, whether a spin out of a subsidiary is the best thing or a licensing deal. And if we did the licensing deal, the upfront payment would go and be reinvested into the company for future products.
I'm
sure. Can we go, look, of all the things that we have seen, you might be doing the most important work for people that we've seen.
And probably
Period.
the biggest business.
And probably the biggest business, without question. I have no idea if it's real. I can't pronounce any of the words that you used. You're way smarter than I am, and that's cool. But what the heart of what Eric's question is a good one. Everything that we see when we look through your stuff, to me, looks like you want to sell the business or license the business. So, dumb guy, smart guy, do you want to put jobs in Buffalo, and how many of them? Are you going to build a company?
We are committed, and it's our estimate that we will add about 22 jobs into Buffalo very quickly. As well, working with the manufacturer that is actually here in Buffalo, Athenix, they would probably have to staff up as well. But we are committed towards building a company that is here for the long term. Our ambition is to have the next Merck or Pfizer, and that's what we're committed to build a company starting with this platform and then growing from there. But as a small company, It is typically in biotech and pharmaceuticals, your first 1 or 2 products you will out-license because you cannot build up the commercialization capability, marketing and sales that you need to compete against Merck and Pfizer. So that's where you do the out-licensing deal. You get an upfront payment and a percentage of the revenue coming back to the company, and then build from there. And ultimately, we would build our own capability from soup to nuts in terms of being a pharmaceutical company. We are committed to doing that here in Buffalo. We have family relations here. A couple of us have lived here. We are committed to doing it here because it's a wonderful environment. The coordination between the hospital, the manufacturing, the basic science, and what we're trying to do.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.